No, are we ready? Are you still eating knishes or drinking coffee? Good morning, Noah.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you? I have a girlfriend who is currently on vacation, and she gets like 2 weeks of vacation the entire year. So I've been trying to be be accommodating of her. We had a lot of fun in Florida. It was a good time, but trying to be accommodating of her sleep schedule in this. So I woke up a bit late today. I'm embarrassed to say, and I am now catching up with all the early birds. And that involves responding to easily 100. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm not saying this to. You know those people that flex about how busy they are, like, oh my god, I'm so busy, I'm so busy all the time. I don't want to be one of those people, but I am responding to like 100 messages a day as soon as I wake up in the morning, and it's a lot. Please don't ask me for calls if I don't even know who you are. Like, you know those people that message you immediately. They're like, "Hi, my name is so and so. We should have a call," and just like shoot their Calendly over. And uh, no, please don't do that. I have too many calls. I want to just know who you are first before we decide to get that intimate. But anyway, Fidji, how you doing?
Okay, first of all, let's call a spade a spade. And this is because you just told me you were up till 4 in the morning watching murder mysteries on Netflix. So
Yeah,
let's be honest.
yeah,
Um, and
dude.
listen,
The
I'm cooking
1970s,
dishes.
the
Yeah.
1970s and 1980s is crazy. Apparently, in Texas, you can just get away with murder left and right. So it's called the Texas Killing Fields. We watched several
Oh,
of
I've
them
seen it.
actually.
I've seen it. It's good.
Yeah, yeah. And there's another one where this like Indian mom, it's a huge scandal. She ends up murdering her two of her children, but the children were known to be her siblings, and she's still free because they can't prove that she did it. And it's very obvious after the documentary that she did it. I don't know, crazy. Um,
Well, I'll give you a little TMI. First of all, Robert Durst killed them all, so now you don't need to watch the Jinx. Second of all, my girlfriend low key thinks that I'm a serial killer, and I'm not sure I'm not. To be honest with you, I think I have all the characteristics to be one.
Don't
Um,
deny
ex-
it.
I just
I think you do too. I think you have all the characteristics to be one too, Digital. Actually, now that I think about it.
Here's the problem. I actually wanted to be a veterinarian when I was younger, but I have a phobia of metal touching bone. So sorry, this is not the conversation. I'm excited, and Doc, shut up. Uh, Welcome everybody. Nice to see you, Doc. Some of my favorite people. Noah, great to see you. Andrew's here, one of my favorites. I think we got some stuff cooking, by the way, Andrew. We should talk. And then I was telling you about a new project, Snap It, that I just partnered with. I'm excited. We don't talk about RWAs ever here, and this is like it's my name. Uh, Probably the most experienced person in RWAs and Fidgetals, certainly in crypto Twitter. So I'm excited to talk about Snap It. We have Open Forest Protocol, which is a cool project focused on carbon credits on chain, which is at first I thought a gimmick, but actually, well, it still may be a gimmick. The jury's still out, dude. But that's where you laugh, by the way. I took a call with him yesterday, and he was snarky, and there was no like intention to the call. We were on a space together at RWAs, and when I hear about something interesting, I like to chat. So we chatted, and then he was snarky enough to ask me to post about it. So I said, "Why don't you come up and talk on the space?" So I think it's cool to have multiple RWA projects on. Snap It is a snap to earn project. So much like, not to make the correlation, Step In was walk to earn. This is snap to earn, but there's a difference between collecting images and a value proposition down the line, and somehow trying to harvest sweat from fat degens and somehow tokenizing that. Like, surprise, surprise, that was a rug. What do you mean if you have no actual legitimate value proposition, you can't sustain a token? But we can get into that. I do want to, if you don't mind, take the first step, and then we'll go to Andrew. When I was in that RWA space, I posted a tweet about kind of breaking down RWAs. It, I spent about 2 years in spaces trying to get people to say the word phygital, and it's kind of it's like awkwardly sexual, maybe. People don't love it necessarily, but people are finally using the term. And I think it's important to break down kind of what RWAs will likely look like in the near future. And I think I did that in my tweet up there. But Andrew, welcome. Good morning, brother. How you doing?
GM, a couple quick things I wanted to call out before we get serious. Number one, I grew up in the Robert Durst town, so I'm glad to see justice served. Number two, Noah, what do you stuff your knish with?
Oh, I'm the one
Oh,
making so I'm the one baking knishes right now. I actually need to check on them. They're in the oven. I
well,
asked Noah if he knew what knishes were, and he said no. And then I explained what a knish was, which is basically the Jewish meat pocket.
Oh,
Uh,
bro, you got to have a knish. They're
I've
delicious.
made I've made
Meat
one
or
before.
potato?
I'll have you know that I have participated in more Jewish things than most Jewish people that you know. I went. Does anyone know what a memuna is? Well, not you, Digital.
I'm
Even
Jewish and I don't.
even my Jewish friends don't know what a memuna is because I have. But anyway, I've made those things at a memuna with my Israeli friends. So, yeah, I do know what
And
they
then
are.
and
And
then
I like
last
ground
but
beef.
not least,
I like ground beef.
Fidji, I'm going to give you a piece of free marketing advice. I think you need to recreate the Olivia Newton-John physical music video, shot by shot with you, and then the entire thing replace the word physical with phygital. There is no doubt in my mind that that will put you on the timeline, my friend.
I'm going to save you some time. It's already been made. It's on the timeline. And yes, it goes, let's get fidgetal, fidgetal. So yes, that
But
meme
are you but
exists.
are you wearing 80s workout apparel and do you have laser backgrounds? Because if you don't, try harder.
So all of that, but it's not me. So yes, you know what? I will take the time to get somebody to uh, put in my PFP on top of whatever her name was. But thank you. Uh,
Olivia Newton-John, are you like just coming to civilization or what? You don't know Olivia Newton-John.
it's okay. I was in bed with my girlfriend the other night, and I was like, "Oh yeah, my friend's in San Diego." She said that she said ask if I wanted to go to San Diego to do yoga, and I said probably no to both, but let me know when you're going to the whale's vagina. And she looked at me like I was absolutely insane, and I realized that there's an age gap when you actually still get Anchorman jokes. So thank you, Doc, for aging yourself as well. Uh, I'd like to get into our topic at hand, RWA's future bridging assets. Um, and I'll kind of just preface, first of all, for those who don't know, RWAs stands for real world assets. Um, it's the industry's term for tokenizing physical, things that aren't purely digital in essence. And there's a lot of approaches to this. Things like tokenizing commodities. In the case of Open Forest Registry, I'm sorry, I don't have the first thing. Protocol. It's tokenizing carbon credits. Um, in the past, I worked on a project that tokenized virgin plastic and the plastics market. And with Snapit's instance, it's rewarding people for taking images and pictures in the real world, submitting them to the platform. And there's obviously goals for the collection of those images and the engagement. I personally am working on some projects that are phygital, so I'd like to get into it. Um, why don't we start with Ani? Ani, you're behind the Jahaski account, correct?
That's right, Digital. And nice to meet you all here tonight.
Nice to meet you as well. Do you want to start by kind of explaining what Snapit is and kind of how it's phygital, and then like why do you care if people are taking pictures?
Sure. Um, so I think I'm gonna, you know, just so I don't blab around a bit too much, so Digital, feel free to, chime in or put a pause, in case I'm kind of going around in circles. But I'm just gonna break this up into two pieces. The first is Snap It. What's Snap It? Well, Snap It, simply put, as Digital already kind of mentioned, is a GameFi play to earn project where you take pictures using your camera NFTs and you post them, you battle with other people where you're put up against other people's photos, pictures, and other users vote to see whose picture, did it better, and you earn points through that. So this is kind of, it's really you take pictures and you earn points. It's as simple as that. And kind of connecting to what Digital just said, how is it kind of part of the whole RWA world is that in our kind of future vision or where we're headed towards is utilizing these unaltered, real, authentic pictures taken by real people can actually be utilized for business use cases, for, variety of use cases, really. But yeah, that's kind of where we're headed towards.
Cool. And I personally am the most interested in fidgetals, and as I define them up top, that's essentially adding value, essentially putting illiquid assets on chain. Um, right now, we have liquid assets on chain for the most part, and the feature that most people know about RWAs, because it is the lowest hanging fruit, is application to real estate, because there's so much locked liquidity in the world's real estate, and going through traditional finance makes it very, very laborious and costly unnecessarily. But I'm more interested in the ways that uh, you have to step back. A token is, or money in general, right, is just an incentive, and then you build incentive models around it. Um, I love the idea of using tokenization for physical goods and real world experiences, essentially kind of capturing time. I think that's the most fascinating use case for RWAs personally. So I will go back to you, Ani, behind the Johaski, and snap it. Why do you care that people are taking pictures? Like, you're rewarding them? There has to be an end goal to be collecting images. Otherwise, like, what's the point of what you're doing?
Sure. Um, so obviously from a GameFi perspective, it's this, we're all taking pictures all the time. So, we can obviously approach it from a rather simple but naive perspective that, hey, there's so many play to earn projects. Why isn't there one for taking pictures? So, obviously there's that kind of a fun, lighter aspect to it. But in terms of RWA or kind of where we're headed towards, because it's not just with the 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 kind of the broad use cases of um, generative AI and kind of fake deep fakes. But even before that, we've been very accustomed to photoshopping our images. Half the time, the stuff you see online, especially the nicer the picture it is. Let's say we're talking about some really dope view. Um, we don't actually know if it's edited or if it's purely shot on an iPhone or whatever really good camera. So, kind of putting this on obviously the blockchain, kind of taking a Web3 spin on it, we're able to provide a platform where we're first of all, verifying that the pictures taken are obviously authentic, they're real, and they're not altered. And this clearly as a e-liquid asset has a lot of value. Does that answer your question? I hope it does.
Yes, it does. So essentially, down the line, you guys intend to do things with these images. I kind of wanted to touch on what the future of the project is. Are you permitted to talk about that publicly?
Sure. So we actually just updated our white paper pretty recently, but where we're taking this is creating basically a database of real pictures and its location and timestamp. So what this does is obviously I won't get into too much of the details, but essentially with what we currently have in our current platform, current iteration of our platform, which is the GameFi, we're verifying that all the pictures which are taken and uploaded are real through something which we have called camera NFTs. So essentially, you cannot upload, any pictures which you talk on your, which you took on your phone. You have to take it through the app, and essentially the app makes sure that you're the one who took it on the spot. So what happens with this is you're able to create an authentic database of pictures which are obviously authentic. I know I'm kind of repeating the word authentic here, but um, essentially using that, you're able to, for example, see over time what are the changes that have taken place in a particular neighborhood, a particular location, real world assets. It could be vending machines, electrical poles. I mean, you name it. And we're able to keep a record of it. And obviously, people as in projects will eventually be able to utilize it as well.
So I'm asking, thank you, brother. I'm asking the questions so that the audience hears. I know the answer to these questions. I know that putting geolocation and truth of memory information on chain is incredibly valuable. How that gets monetized is definitely going to be interesting. I've talked to I had a conversation just the other day with a partner about, what kind of digital campaign would we do with Red Bull, for example. And the idea was like, oh, imagine if Red Bull could launch a campaign where they reward people for taking outrageous adventure images and then submitting them, and then organizing those pictures and having that kind of data cache to then create campaigns around, or interactive experiences with their community, and building a deeper relationship with the community. So I see a lot of value, and I'm excited to dig deeper into your stuff and what you got coming up. In the meantime, Devin, you had your hand up, and then I do want to go to open forest protocol and address kind of a different use case of digitals. How's it going, Devin? Welcome to the stage.
GM everyone.
How are you? Did you have a question for Snapit or for the panel?
Okay. Can I ask my question?
Sure.
Okay. My question is, ambassadors play a very important role in every project. Do you have an ambassador program? If yes, how can I be one?
What kind of program?
An ambassador program.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's very bold of you, Devin. I am an ambassador, Devin. So if anybody doesn't know, I'm an ambassador for Snapit. Just started. I'm excited to. I'm building some stuff that's similar. Devin, I would suggest DMing them if they're interested. You can speak directly to them. But thank you for your question. But yes, it's funny. I'd never heard of Snapit. My CTO actually referred them to me because we're building stuff similar to it. Apparently, they have a big following in Japan, which is I'm a big Japan fan. So we've been having some interesting conversations. And apparently, Annie behind the Johaski account is the only person that speaks English in the company. So he will be doing the representing for the near future, unless your CEO does come on one time, and then you can
Well,
translate.
actually, I feel compelled to just give a shout out to my team member, which is just one other person other than me who speaks English. But yes, it's just the two of us.
My mistake. But I'm super excited to dive deeper into your project and probably do some use cases live with the audience and stuff like that. Cool. While we're here, open. Is that Jeremy?
Yeah, it's me. It's Snarky Jeremy. If you know me, I don't take snarky as a put down in any regard. In fact, I strive for snarky. So thank you. Appreciate it. Good to be here.
Ditto, by the way. It's kind of my trademark. Welcome to the stage, brother. Let's hear about what you got going on.
Yeah, good to see you again, Digital. It's been far too long. Glad to be here. Yeah, let me explain what we do at Open Forest Protocol. Make a few points, and then if there's questions, it's my favorite thing to talk about. So please fire away. So we are.
And Jeremy, before you get going to the audience, this is not a paid sponsorship, and I'm not an ambassador. This is just a project that I think is cool that I think you guys would like to hear about.
Not yet an ambassador. Okay, yeah, no, I'm here on my own volition, and no one has a gun to my head. I'm happy to be here. So Open Forest Protocol is the on-chain consensus layer for digital environmental assets. That sounds like a whole bunch of gibberish to you. I can explain. Let me just start maybe with the term bridging, which is in the title of this space. And that's been an interesting evolution within this, I would say, subsector of Web3 that we call refi. Obviously, a play on DeFi. It's regenerative finance. The whole concept being we can take capital, create returns that also have a positive environmental social outcomes. So you have these pro-social outcomes, or we call them positive externalities when we really want to sound smart. Essentially, if a tree grows, absorbs carbon, and creates, a home for biodiversity, then we can essentially monetize that action. How and why, we can get to that. So within the world of refi, what we saw sort of in the early, the 2020 to 2021 period, we saw some projects like Klima, Toucan, you may have heard of. They were bridging assets. So I really do want to draw a quick distinction there in that those projects, and I think they're great teams, great projects. They were doing what they could at the time. They were taking off-chain carbon credits and essentially bridging them or reanimating them on-chain, representing them with a token. And with that, obviously, you can do a lot around liquidity, a lot around sort of provenance and chain of custody tracing. That's great. That's, I would say, half the battle is knowing who owns the credit and what is the status of the credit, because the credit can either be live or essentially retired, the on-chain analog of that being burned. With Open Forest Protocol, we're actually birthing carbon credits live on chain. That sounds a little graphic. So let me clarify on that just a bit. We are taking a system where essentially everything but the trees goes on chain. How do you create a carbon credit? That's kind of where I want to dig in just briefly. You have to obviously have proof that a ton of carbon, which essentially a credit represents 1 ton of carbon, you have to have very good proof that that ton of carbon, in this case, has been removed from the atmosphere and is now embedded in a forest somewhere. So how do you do that? You have to first measure. That's step one. Open Forest Protocol has created a smartphone app. And Johaski, maybe we could talk a little bit at some point off the space, because our app does some geolocation and essentially has to ensure that picture-based evidence taken from smartphones has to be geolocated and is taken from exactly where it says it is. So we empower projects to collect evidence that their trees are there, that their trees are growing. They submit that, and that's basically the only off-chain part that happens. As soon as data gets uploaded, pictures, measurements, locations of trees within various sample plots in their forest, once that goes on chain, the rest of it is completely traceable, transparent, and open source to the world. So we take that raw data, we put it on chain, we run it through a consensus mechanism that takes professional verification bodies, that takes remote sensing companies using satellite, LiDAR, AI. They have an incentive structure using our native token to essentially stake on the confidence that they have in the quality and truthfulness of that data. Was the data comprehensively uploaded, and do they think that this evidence, these pictures and measurements truly represent what's happening in the forest? Essentially, if consensus is achieved and the overwhelming response is to affirm that data upload, we then move to generation of an asset. So that's where we get to essentially bearing carbon credits directly on chain, where you can see the data that went into them. So they are the world's first and only data-backed carbon credits. And that data follows that carbon credit around for the entirety of its remaining life cycle. So the credit gets generated, it's automatically distributed back to the project via smart contract, where they now have tools to push that credit out in the market. You have corporates, you have GameFi, you have all sorts of different sectors that essentially you can connect this credit to and essentially get it into the market where it gets bought. The project is compensated on an annual basis because every year they're remeasuring, they're creating more credits, they're selling those additional credits out into the market. And then we get to see exactly where those credits go, when they get retired. And again, a retired credit still contains within it the metadata that led to its original creation. And within that metadata, you can see a tree growing over time. You can see all of that evidence. You can see what community that's supported. So Open Forest Protocol really solves problems in the voluntary market, because through our unique incentive mechanism, and I'll wrap up here in a second, we can enable projects of all sizes to participate in generating carbon credits. And that's not been possible to date. So think of a 10-hectare farmer in Latin America somewhere. They've got severely degraded cattle grazing land. It's not very productive anymore. Now carbon credits are looking at 30, 40, going to be $50 per ton. I can only see that price per ton growing over time. There's a point where the value of growing a forest actually flips and becomes far more valuable than trying to grow beef on decreasingly productive land. And so this becomes a value proposition. I believe in the end of the day, the money talks, right? And so we can provide this value proposition to landowners all over the world. We have over 104 projects on our platform today after only a year of onboarding, many, many more in the pipeline. I think over 30 countries represented there. And we can provide sustainable, long-term annual recurring revenue for these landholders by helping them generate carbon credits and ensuring the guardrails that those carbon credits are genuine, that they're high quality, and making sure that that's transparent. And I think we're creating the best carbon credits in the market today. Certainly, we need to get that message out and educate the market on that. But that's where we are. That's what we do. Happy to take any questions.
Super cool. And I'll go to Andrew in a second. In case you didn't think I was listening yesterday, I'll point out something I think that people will find kind of fascinating. People always ask, they say two different like inverses of the same thing. They say anything on the blockchain is true, right? Or how do you prove that the information on chain is true, right? And it's important for people to remember that the information on chain is only as true as to the information that is on chain, not as to the ingress or the egress of that information. So putting systems around the efficacy of information as it enters the chain and leaves the chain is just as important as the information that's on the chain. And I say that because what I found to be the most fascinating, first of all, you identified in the conversation that there's both a fully regulated market, which I thought it all was, and then a non-regulated market. Within the non-regulated market, where your value proposition comes is you explained essentially that there's no truth as to the data, essentially, correct?
That's correct. I mean, essentially, the way it happens in the off-chain world is you've got to trust spreadsheets and PDFs, and you have to essentially trust the entity that issues the assets. And what we saw over the last couple of years is you had teams of investigative journalists saying, "Okay, we're supposed to trust you, Vera." I'm calling them out. And they did the deep diligence. They looked into where these assets were created, and what they found was not a pretty picture. So you had pretty damning hit pieces from New York Times, ProPublica, UK Guardian, other good publications where they looked deep and they found that this wasn't one for one. These assets weren't truly represented by real world impact, and that's where I think we make the shift in that we allow anybody to verify rather than trust.
Which is incredibly Web3. Andrew, you have your hand up. Got a question? Thoughts?
Thoughts. Let me just qualify. Sorry, what was your name again? Open Forest.
It's Jeremy.
Jeremy, yeah. Let me just qualify. So my background in sustainability. So I helped launch Creative Artists Agency's sustainability practice pre 2010. I represented a guy named John Picard, who basically was the one that lead certified the White House, launched Discovery Network's Planet Green Network, and then was part of the team that basically made the Prius the vehicle of Hollywood. So I have background in the space. I know quite a bit about it. I love it. And let me go through all the reasons why I love it. First off, let's talk VCs. So when I'm leaving Amazon headquarters, I'm talking to Andreessen, I'm talking to Lightspeed, I'm talking to all the big VCs. Where are you investing today? Where are you investing tomorrow? Every single company told me the exact same four industries, and climate tech is one of them, right? So that's a good signal. The second one is, and I'll give you the example of this. Like this is an extremely viable B2B business, and the reason I say that is because when you're dealing with kind of both consumer and technical brands, the average consumer assumes, oh, they're doing this for greenwashing purposes. They're trying to build a brand, all that. They're financially incentivized to do this, right? And so when you see a lot of these big brands, basically kind of dive into this space of sustainability, they are saving a lot of money, right? And these are things that obviously make stock price go up. It looks good for the brand, so it's kind of a no brainer. And the example that I can give you is when I worked at Amazon headquarters. I was part of the team that launched what was called the Climate Pledge, and we onboarded.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just see what's on the website. Like 489 companies in probably under a year, and we're talking like Mastercard, Salesforce, HP, P&G, Uber, Microsoft, Verizon. I mean, the biggest brands, right? So clearly, there's a huge product market fit. And then the other thing I would say is I have a very good friend who's actually building the carbon capture machines for Microsoft, right? And so again, like first off, on a personal level, like I love that you're making this world better for my kid. And then from a investment level, there's obvious product market fit. I've seen it. And I really, really like it. I like what you're building. I like what you're doing. Yeah, 100%.
Thanks, Andrew. It means a ton. And you finally solved the mystery of why are Hollywood celebs driving Priuses around. So you solved a curiosity that I've been wondering about for a long time. I would love to connect.
That's a cool idea, by the way. I hadn't thought about that. As part of like your reputational score, having your carbon footprint as like an individual.
Yep, 100%.
Like all my ex-vegan girlfriends would fiend over that.
100%.
By the way,
I'm not even kidding. By the way,
but just put up some billboards at Erewhon, and you've got your target audience immediately.
I actually represent and I'm a small equity holder in Sun Life Organics, and I watch everybody else spend $18 a juice. I thankfully get lifetime supply. My girlfriend milks the shit out of that. But yeah, it's not a crazy concept, to be honest with you. I'm laughing because when I first got on the call with Jeremy, I literally said, "I'm pretty sure these are scams." And then I actually think it's a dope idea and a dope project, and it has market fit. I feel like if I just whisper the word RWA, Scott Fu shows up, and I love it. Welcome, Scott. You got your hand up. Give me some juice.
Oh no, man! I saw you having a space, man. I don't really pop into spaces. I saw brother Andrew up here. I see Noah and Fidgetal, and Open Forest, man. I've been a big fan of what you guys have been doing, so I saw you guys up as well. And I heard you guys say climate stuff, and man, I just came back from Climate Week San Francisco. First time I ever been to something like that, and just to see all the D pins, the RWAs. Obviously half of Climate Week still hates blockchain, but the other half was like super motivated and at least open to hearing, about virtual power plants, fractionalization of solar. So I'm just super, super excited that all these different sectors are all coming together. And yeah, man, just happy to be here to add to the convo, Fidge.
Love that. Thanks for joining. And honestly, it's funny. You're obviously around. You were around last cycle. And in with all the bank the unbanked, metaverse to the future, NFTs on the moon shtick that were all scams. It's really cool. In there was tokenizing carbon credits and tokenizing love. There was the Irene Simp DAO and stuff. So it's really cool that this, at least in my opinion, and Scott, I'd love to hear your thoughts too, and Jeremy or anybody, that those ideas, and this happens a lot in this space, right? I was watching, it was the phase thing, probably nothing, and it was mostly a bunch of nonsense, but they did say something that resonated, which was like, people say, Web3 is 95% scams. And somebody said, basically scams drive innovation. And I recall when I first got heavy into crypto, I remember I was with, unfortunately, some of the founders of EOS. You guys can laugh. And we were in an office in Century City, and they were explaining to me, the new, the EVM ecosystem, and there was a chalkboard or a whiteboard. Sorry, I'm aging myself. A whiteboard, and they had a list of all these apps that can be built or were being built in Web3, and I was like, that's amazing. Like, which ones of these are actually legitimate and live? And they went through the list. It was just porn and gambling. But I say that because it is true. It did take a cycle of projects saying they're changing the carbon credit world and we're going to create supply chain solutions, and there were a lot of scams. But this round, we're seeing actual projects creating these products because there is a market fit. It just takes time. So, Scott, I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of, and Andrew, anybody, Annie, even Doc, although this is probably all educational for Doc. There is no question that unlocking inefficient liquidity in real estate, in commodities, in all sorts of assets, just is inevitable, and it makes complete sense. We're just fighting legacy institutions, right? I.e., what that means is a bunch of other people making money off of the inefficiency, including governments. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to keep their money, right? The reason title for real estate should be on chain. It's a no fucking brainer, but that means that you're cutting out, land surveyors, the office workers at the city, and a whole bunch of other people that have their hands in the way. And that's kind of the ethos of blockchain, right? Is you don't have to have banks. What does that really mean? Banks are inefficient, but people think crypto is a scam because there's a lot of scams attached to it. So, Scott, I'd love to hear what you've seen in terms of the arc of kind of the promise of RWAs and DPINs and really cool actual use cases that are popping up in the world that you're excited about that are practical and real use cases for a more efficient and happier life.
Yeah, Fitch, excellent question, man. And what you brought up in the beginning, my favorite thing is even if it's DPIN or RWA, access and liquidity, right? Like those two things, no matter what sector you put those two words, you point those two words to, it just opens it up. And then I feel like really cool things, like AI, right? Everyone's always not us, we're the nerds, but like, the public's always like, oh, AI is going to take all these jobs, all these robots. Okay, bitch, let's own the robots. Let's crowdsource the machines and the tech and own it. Like, let's not be worried about it. I'm trying to own the robots. If I'm like that big, like in the movie Wall-E, remember when they get to the top, everyone's like overweight with the TV screen in front of them. If that's us, cool. At least I still own the AI and the machine. So really, really bullish on crowdsourcing any kind of machinery and AI robotics, renewal anything with renewable energy. From crowdsourcing literally windmills. Like I'm seeing that now. I think that's really cool. I think uh, helping the EV charging infrastructure, right? Like that's such a huge problem. Now we'll, imagine like PowerPod, they have like an adapter, so now your car can charge at any station, and then your station at your own house is now making money. And which really makes me bullish on public schools or cities that are bankrupt. Think about now, you put a couple D pins for virtual power plants in every outlet at the public school. You put a noise pollution and air pollution antenna on top of the school. Now every day that school's making $80 or $100, and you could do this, to your house. You could do this with city DAOs, right? Like Vallejo, California, they can't even pay their firemen and stuff like that. But imagine if there's a city DAO for all of this on the RWA side. So yeah, anything with real world applications. I know we say real world assets, but my thing is all these applications to break the legacy systems. And then the latter part you said, Fidge, about legacy systems. It's really cool that we all know that this is what we're going to do, but we can't just walk in the door and be like, yo, we're going to fuck up your whole supply chain, by being able to track everything from A to Z. Now there are 100 avocados, and I'll end it at this. Avocados from Venezuela or Colombia to here are touched by 200 fucking people. Why? Like what Digital said, like there's no reason 200 stops, notes, computer notes need to be taken on an avocado. So yeah, let's cut out all these middlemen. Let's make everything cheaper, but it's gonna take 5 to 10 years. But I see RWA and DPIN as bear market breakers, and what I mean by that is you're not going to go churn off your CPU, your GPU because ETH is down. You're not going to churn off your geo tracking because Bitcoin is in the 50,000s. So yeah, I'm just looking for renewable energy too, right? You're not going to turn off your solar panels because your Ondo bag is down 10%. So yeah, I'm really hyped to see on this next on the next bear market, which ones of these RWA and D pins are really just going to laugh like, bro, we're not going anywhere. Our token is still chill because people still use our product. So I'm really excited to see like real stuff being used after it's being built.
I couldn't agree more. Funny enough, and I'm sure this is why Doc raised his hand. You were mentioning AI and like losing. Doc is an arbitrator. I won't give away exactly what we're doing, but Doc's an arbitrator, and there's this whole new funnel of arbitration that just makes sense, right? It's basically forced arbitration for uh, uh, medical scenarios whereby it's not worth it for the doctors or the hospitals usually to challenge insurance turn downs of claims, and at the end of the day, we as the consumers eat that, right? Can't afford it, or usually.
I hear Fidgy rugging.
Yeah, I think he's rugging.
The damn Obama phone he has there in West Hollywood.
File Benji, the hospital. Oh, go ahead.
Fidgy, you're monologuing, but I can't hear you, buddy.
I can summarize it.
It's okay. I just switched to Wi-Fi. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. What I was saying is, Doc has there's this new funnel of business, and it's pretty rote, right? Because it's low cost. So he was telling me about it one day. I'm like, shit, we could turn that into an AI automation and pump those out, like, and then he was like, really? And then we built it, right? So the application of tech to real world stuff is real, and tokenizing is real. It just makes sense in so many ways. Sorry, guys, for the monologue and the shit. Yes, Doc, put your hand up.
No, I mean, I wasn't going to talk about that. I'm glad you introduced it. Very exciting prospect. We're getting it off the ground now. But what I was going to comment on is, your example of the recording statutes and real property title, and the other comments. I think it was from Scott, who's referencing, coffee and the chain of commerce that exists between Columbia and my local Ralph's supermarket. That there's incredible efficiencies to capture there, and of course a lot of wealth along the way. The challenge is it's not just going to be enough to provide a better mousetrap through crypto and blockchain. What you're going to have to contend with, for example, in the recording statutes, you have to deal with the laws that are in statutes, that are in code, that require certain things to happen a certain way. And I won't go into it because it's well beyond the scope, but I sued the county of Monterey over some tax issues and a whistleblower complaint, which meant that if they had agreed, the Attorney General of the state of California had agreed, they would have taken the sued to recover this money in billions of dollars, and I would have had a portion of it. The problem was there was a particular statute that said tax losses weren't applicable. So what I'm saying is the minutia of these statutes, the minutia of these laws, going back in some cases, particularly as it relates to recording statutes, hundreds of years and into English traditions, those things are not going to be changed by simply offering a more efficient and profitable system. You're going to have to figure out a way to deal with the legislative constructs around and the legal constructs around these systems. And that's why attorneys are here in this room.
Yes, hopefully less of us over time. I think is also a good thing. Right? Again, it's just efficiency that blockchain and the ability to hyper target with tokenized incentives. That really is what RWAs at the end of the day is. There's a ton of inefficient liquidity floating around in every sector you can imagine, and a huge need for truth as to data. So I'll go to Chris in a second, but something that Joe Haskey, who's the representative for Snapit. Scott, you ever heard of Snapit before?
No, you know what's crazy? I was just checking out their profile. I was like, "What is this? I want to know what this is."
They're big in Japan. You love Japan, don't you?
Yeah, I'm half Japanese.
That's what I thought. So it's a snap to earn protocol, which obviously I was comparing it to STEPN, which was walk to earn, which again I don't see where the value cycle comes. But I've been fascinated with fidgetals in a certain perspective, which is if anybody hasn't heard, there's something called planned obsolescence. the reason why your iPhones stop working as much, and it's been admitted as much, is that Apple wants you to buy new phones. Well, what's the one way of doing that? You make a product that either naturally expires over a certain given time or breaks down, right? It makes it easier to then also sell the product that's quote unquote infinitely better when it's not, right? Same thing happens with cars. Cars used to run for hundreds of thousands of miles. They don't run more than a couple 100,000 now, not because they can't, because they're built to not last. And so what you have is a ton of waste in the life cycle of products. The main reason why this happens is because there's no downstream connection between a manufacturer and the consumer, right? There's no royalties. There's no reason for them to make a product. That's their sale. The only way they get more sales is to try to sell add-ons and stuff, which isn't guaranteed. And the main meal is the car itself, or the shirt itself, or the shoes. However, with blockchain and Phygital, something I've been passionate about is if you Nike doesn't even know where the left shoe to the right shoe is in their supply chain. So what you've seen a lot with RWAs or Phygitals right now is authentication, which is great. Like, okay, I prove that the product is what I think it is or what I want it to be. I think that's the first step in a longer blockchain initiative and token incentive initiative whereby brands can communicate with downstream buyers. If you're putting physical products on chain and you tokenize things effectively and the sales occur through, let's say, an NFT of the product, right, then the manufacturer can get royalties and get money downstream from a product as well as information by communicating with downstream buyers and sellers. If that's the case, I believe we can help for circular economies and products that last longer because they have a future value. Things like Snap to Earn have the potential to add communication potentials between products or brands and their consumers that exceed the initial purchase. So, Jahask, if you want to kind of talk about what you guys are thinking about how encouraging consumers to take images could be a value proposition for your company or other companies down the line.
Sure. So I mean, really good points being raised.
Annie, that's to you. If you're speaking, you're muted.
No, I can
Can
hear
you
him.
hear me?
Oh, then I'm going to leave and come
Okay.
back.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So what we're saying is, so okay, let me give you a couple examples. These are, I mean, I'm not mentioning examples which are directly associated with our project or our business at the moment, but these are, I think, pretty good examples, which or cases, use cases, or case studies, which are already kind of there in the market. One such example is in Japan right now. There's a company, uh, who is requesting just, I mean, normal people to go around taking pictures of vending machines. Now, in case, some of the listeners here have not been to Japan or say Tokyo, is there a lot of vending machines. I mean, a lot. And not just in malls or not just in stations, but I mean, all over the city. You can be walking down the street and I mean, at least if you're walking for 10 minutes, I'd say, to be on the safer side, you'll definitely run into at least one or two vending machines. And there's a company asking people to take pictures of them. And obviously, from the business perspective, this can lead to market research, finding out what kind of products are being sold in certain regions, certain areas. Another is some of the vending machines, actually, quite a bit of them, are not actually managed by larger businesses. It's actually managed by individuals or it's owned by individuals. So, you can check if your products are, if any of them need restocking, checking inventory. I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but this is a real use case that's there right now. Another quick example is there's a company asking people to take pictures of electrical poles. Now, similar but a bit different to vending machines, interestingly enough, Tokyo still has a lot of electrical poles along the city. So, having people take pictures of them, you can do, I mean, remote maintenance to be really fair is a bit of a stretch, but at the very least, you might be able to identify if there are any big issues. Maybe in some areas, people might be putting some posters or flyers on electrical poles, which maybe you're not supposed to. I do kind of think I don't think anyone would, go to the extent of having people take pictures to remove them. But again, these are just kind of lighter examples of how this kind of there is a market which exists for this, both from a 2C perspective and a 2B perspective.
Dude, I hadn't even thought about it, but when Jeremy behind the Open Forest Protocol account was talking about, I was talking about truth as to the data that enters the chain for truth as to the data on chain. That they basically, so if I'm not mistaken, Open Jeremy, you guys have your own app, and you're basically accomplishing what they're accomplishing, but for your specific purposes. It sounds like Snapit could actually be kind of the data entry layer for truth as to real world data for any product that or company that needs truth as to real world information. Super interesting.
Yeah, a lot of cool synergies there for sure.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. We'll talk offline, Annie, but that's probably maybe something you're already thinking about, but it's just hitting me as we go.
Yeah, I definitely heard Jeremy earlier mention, we should definitely catch up, out of this, on the sidelines. There's definitely a lot of synergy, and I mean, it's really, you said it well. It's kind of capturing the truth of the real world, and we're just kind of trying to do that through pictures, or doing that through pictures, and having a layer to that, which really kind of brings that credibility. I mean,
Dude,
works great.
I just got tingles, by the way, and we'll go to Noah and Bitfinity now. I apologize, but I've always wondered. I've loved Carfax, right? I think there's a huge application here for insurance, is what I'm getting at. But I've always wondered with Carfax, it's like I'm not going to put that my car got into an accident. Like, why am I going to do that? So and why would anybody else do that? So how is the Carfax results or the Kelly Blue Book results of your of the state of your vehicle accurate if there's no true incentive to be entering the information to track that? If there's an incentive model that rewards people for doing the actions that they wouldn't otherwise take, right? That's super interesting. Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, dude, I love what you guys are talking about because I really like what I think it's Panomo, and then obviously I think Chainlink with the dynamic NFTs that connect to your Tesla or your house. So like you get your rain gutter done. It changes on the dynamic NFT. All your EV stats, everything that your Tesla has gone through, it's just living live on this dynamic NFT. Your mileage, everything. So yeah, dude, Fidge, I I think we're gonna see a lot more of this. And yeah, I don't know what we call this NFT 2.0 or what the hell the next acronym that a Web3 is going to come up with. But no, I'm really bullish on dynamic NFTs for like real world items, that like actually change. And then even like, like a lot of music and art doesn't get talked about, but like even dynamic NFTs on that side, like maybe you go to a concert and something changes with your emotion with your Apple Watch or I don't know, I'm just throwing ideas out there, but your bio data, your bio data changes the dynamic NFT. Yeah, I'm just really bullish on anything that connects to these like changing dynamic and smart NFTs, whatever you want to call them.
Dude, there's so many applications, right? Like now that I'm thinking about it, imagine, and I think insurance is a huge play in this, but like imagine, snapping for medical purposes, right? Like I did what I said I did, or like I took my medicine, or I mean, obviously there's for your home. Yes, I upgraded the piper copying, the copper piping at this date. We reinforced the structure on this date. I think there's a massive market for the truth as to the information being entered. That's a
Oh,
really
and
cool.
Fidge, you know what I just thought about too? Since we talked about the Walmart meat truck last time, think
Uh huh.
about it for medicine, right? For like, say, our grandma, her medicine has to be refrigerated, at a certain degree. If it isn't, she's not going to know that it was kept at 60 degree and it's a placebo now. But now she scans, say it's like there's an NFC chip or whatever code on it, and then it sends her to the dynamic NFT of that medication, and it literally shows her it was kept at 38 degrees the whole time. So, damn, we just thinking this on stage, man. Like, I love this. Yeah, I love this stuff.
Yeah, man. No, because it's funny. And then we'll go to Bitfinity in a second. When I first met the Snapit project, right? Like they're rewarding pictures. And I was like, okay, but for what? And I think, I don't know if this is the team's incentive, but I do see an entire gap in the market as to truth, as to information with regards to RWAs that is kind of that bridge, right? So if you incentivize the truth as to the information being put into an RWA ecosystem, I think that solves a lot of, and it's obvious, right? Jeremy at Open Protocol built that themselves. And that's probably one of the most important things, the consensus as to the truth of the carbon calculation and existence is the differentiator to a large degree than the existing ecosystem and why blockchain benefits. So super fascinating. No, I'll pass it to you for the Bitfinity handoff. And or Jeremy, go ahead, you unmiked, and then no.
Yeah. Maybe just one quick comment, because I think you said something earlier, and I think it's coming back around. Is it's one thing to put data on chain. You can put complete bullshit on a blockchain. It doesn't make it true.
We're not
So
we're not
how do
talking
you
about
then
Solana in
incentivize?
this space, but go ahead.
Zing! You can't. You do need to verify data, right? So how do you make sure that happens? I just want to give a quick overview. Like I can do this in 30 seconds. How do we verify data? What's the incentive mechanism on chain? Because I think it's quite interesting in the way the tokenomics work here. We contract specifically with validators. So we're not sort of an open degen validation model. We look for organizations that add value and trust to the ultimate assets that they're helping to verify. They are using our native token to essentially stake on their confidence around the validation. The more validation that they do that end up on the correct side of the consensus, the more of our native token they earn. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Those native tokens can be staked on chain, right? They can be staked for what? They will actually yield a portion of the ultimate assets that get generated. So carbon credits coming out of our system, 8% of those are actually yielded back into any of the native utility tokens that are staked, meaning everyone has a vested interest to ensure that only the best, most high quality assets get verified and get issued. Because would you rather uphold quality and get a portion of a $40 credit yielded to your wallet, or would you have a portion of a $10 shitty credit yielded to your wallet, right? So there's just an interesting thing. And we can do this for any environmental asset, really any asset, right? Like it is an on-chain consensus there. So that's just how we're doing it. Just thought I'd share. It's kind of interesting.
Super cool. I could talk about this all day. Literally, this is like, yeah. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. But no, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, of course. Bitfinity is the co-sponsor of today's show, and Sam's come on to represent them for the last 3 weeks. Sam, did you want to give a quick intro or give a quick background into what Bitfinity is, how how it works? I don't know if we discussed whether Bitfinity was planning to be a general purpose layer 2, or if you guys were going to focus on specific niches. When I spoke to Dukakis, he said that you guys are going to be focusing heavy on memes, and we're going to do a space next week on memes and why, for better or worse, they are onboarding tools. They are onboarding communities for crypto. But yeah, would love to know if you're going to do anything with RWAs or focus on onboarding RWA and DePIN projects, and your general thoughts around RWAs.
Cheers. Yeah, I think that it's completely possible to build that on Bitfinity. And for anyone listening who doesn't know what Bitfinity is, Bitfinity is a Bitcoin sidechain, Bitcoin layer 2, and it's EVM compatible. We have our own custom EVM. We're actually going to be launching within the next 1 to 2 weeks, and it's going to be like an execution environment where we're going to be allowing people to basically access the mainnet. It won't be a kind of full launch because the bridging might not be ready 100%, but the fact that the bridging feature there is leading into bridging assets, right? And we're looking to be able to go live with runes straight away, which is leading into obviously meme coins and Bitcoin based meme coins, and basically build an app where you'll be able to bridge assets natively within the app, rather than having to connect it to anything to do it within the Bitfinity ecosystem. So yeah, we're gearing up to then launch a hackathon, and we want that focused around pretty much as much of the diversity as possible. But we have a special area that we think will do well, and that is around runes and also then meme coins, like you've mentioned. Which what it does is actually just fosters like tokenization within the network. So that's like encouraging growth. So that's what we want to do. We want to bring in liquidity. We want to bring in growth. So we got to think of a multitude of different ways to do that. So real world assets is one of them.
Do you intend to, Sam? That makes complete sense, by the way, especially with the rune stuff. I think I mentioned that last time, and I wasn't sure if it was a big push for any of those who are not yet in the rune ecosystem. They're shitcoins on Bitcoin, for lack of a better word. But their issue is they trade like NFTs, like ordinals, because there's no liquidity pools at the moment, and they are PvP. You're buying them straight from somebody else. Is one of your intents potentially with the bridging of runes, obviously to reduce cost and friction so that they can transfer more seamlessly? Big issue, and why they trade like NFTs for a large degree. Second of all, is there any intent to create protocols for LP provisions?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we want to foster within the ecosystem. And in terms of runes, they just provide a new way to add liquidity that obviously didn't exist like a month or so ago. And with that, we think there's going to be a lot of growth for dApps that will interact with runes. And there's been some things that people have been building, which is like segments of runes. So there's a lot more to it than I think people think when it comes to actually building on runes rather than just trading with them. So I think that's going to be interesting to see what people kind of come up with now in the next 2 to 3 months since they've been live. But yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question.
It does enough. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, no, Sam, I think we've covered this before, but getting DMs with questions. When is Bitfinity going to go live finally? And I know that you mentioned closed beta is already happening, but when are you guys going live? And also, what bridges are going to be used to get funds over from, let's say, Ethereum to the EVM?
Yes, that's with our newer bridge that we're building, and it's like I don't think it's going to be ready when our execution environment is looking to go live, and that's about say 2 weeks away. The execution environment that's going to allow like the first phase of builders in to really get to grips with the mainnet. Our like actual launch then will be at a later date from that. But with what did you mention with the mainnet? That's going to be the first place where people are going to be able to build. And yeah, I'm not sure. What else did you ask me?
That was it. I wanted to know when mainnet's going to go live and what bridges.
So it's kind of like mainnet's not live, but it's an execution environment where we're gearing up to go live like within the next month, basically, and that'll be launching soon.
Yeah, and given the theme of the space, for any RWA projects that do want to build on Bitfinity, what would be the best way to go about doing so?
So yeah, you can reach out to myself or hit the Bitfinity account up. But we'll be posting a lot on, if you just follow us, we'll be posting a lot about our hackathon. It's going to go live soon. And, we'll be probably giving case studies for real world assets.
Are you guys going to be present? And go ahead, Fidji. I'll ask this then and I'll pass it over to you. Are you guys going to be present in any conferences this year, Sam?
I think the team was looking to go to Ordinals Asia. I think someone might have been. Or Bitcoin Asia. And also Bitcoin Nashville, I think it is.
So I'm actually eating my knishes now. For frozen knishes, they're delicious. I'm surprised at the crispiness and the softness on the inside. What I was going to say for RWAs and their potato, if anybody wants to know. It could be an interesting proposition. I haven't thought much about it. I'd actually love Scott's thoughts here as well. I've had conversations over the years about.
Did you say frozen conditions? I'm going to tell your mom.
She won't talk to you, and you just want to flirt with her. Stop it. The idea is that Bitcoin, right, eventually will probably be it is quote unquote the store of value, and that real world assets that are worth the transaction cost, as well as don't necessarily need the speed of transaction that the Bitcoin network kind of hinders. The idea that those assets can stay on Bitcoin, right, like a real estate asset, but then can be essentially fractionalized on another chain like Ethereum, whereby they can have more flexibility and realistic use cases. Is that kind of something that you guys are thinking about? Is that possible within your ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. That's in terms of what you're able to build on Bitfinity. There's a lot of different use cases, and obviously with the bridging of different assets, using ICP, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, it opens up a lot of possibilities of what people could actually build. So, yeah, what we already know from EVM perspective and projects on there, and then almost some of the things that we don't know yet with what's going to happen with projects that are built around tokenization on Bitcoin.
So my last question will be, and then I'll pass back to Noah, or anybody else can chime in. What do you have, and if you don't have an answer, that's fine. What do you have that's already being built or that is planned on being built in your ecosystem that is uniquely taking advantage of the Bitcoin to EVM protocol that you guys are proposing as a new ecosystem?
At the minute, I'm not sure if there's anything at the stage. Like I said, we're waiting on our bridging feature to go live, and then from there, we want to make sure that that's working at the level we expect it as well. So, to kind of launch that's going to be publicly available probably at a later date. So I don't know if any of the teams have had access to that, but they may be building with that, knowing that it's going to come, if that makes sense, and building around the EVM side first. But to give you some perspective of what we've actually got in the ecosystem, DEXs, NFT marketplaces, building out the basic kind of infrastructure as you would, as being like the first DEX on Bitfinity, for example. Sonic is the name of it. And yeah, building out like the DeFi infrastructure, because that's going to be basically the most critical part of what we're doing, is adding more scalability to DeFi on Bitcoin.
For those in the audience, what he was saying is if you're a new chain and you don't have users, then you won't survive. So DeFi is proven to be the most efficient at creating liquidity and users and attention. So that makes sense that you're starting with those and NFT marketplace and stuff like that. I am excited to see what people do on a more functionally creative angle as you take care of like the grassroots. So as you lay the foundation with DeFi and stuff like that, like every chain does. I'm interested to see how people functionally are using the proposition of your protocol down the line. Do you guys have a fund for? Are you giving out grants, hackathon? How are you supporting people coming into your ecosystem?
Kind of all of the above in some ways. We've got a lot of plans going on behind the scenes that I'm not going to speak on just today in terms of like how we want to fund the growth, because obviously that's our priority, right? But hackathons can be incentivized with airdrop points, and we can do grants potentially for people that we've been working with, but it's all on kind of the terms that are going to be released. I don't know what they are just yet.
No worries. In the future, by the way, it seems like we're going to be interacting with each other a lot. You can tell me to piss off if I'm asking you a question that you don't want to answer. So just giving you that liberty.
I'll just say I don't know. So
exactly.
Okay.
So when are you launching the token? How much money? I'm just kidding. Thanks, dude. It actually sounds really interesting. And when did you say you're going live?
So, like I said, the environment before we actually like deploy the token stuff, that's looking to go within the next 1 to 2 weeks live. and then the token and stuff like that will, like the mainnet actually launching will be a few weeks after that at some point.
Got you. While we're on the subject, I'd like to go to Joe Haskey and Annie. What do you guys have coming up in terms of events at the? First of all, as you said, you guys are basically. I'd never heard of you. Scott is an RWA freak, and he'd never heard of you. So you had mentioned that you have a big following in Japan, which makes sense. Apparently, I'm your only Western representative at the moment, or American. So I'm kind of shouting to the hills there. But what do you guys have like currently? What can people do? How do they do it? And what do you have coming up?
So
Yeah.
I guess. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
That wasn't for me, no.
No, that was for Annie
Okay.
behind the Johaska account. But I'll ask you the same thing afterwards again as well.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
All right. So, yeah, Fizzle, living in an island off a coast in Japan, we tend to get lost in our own culture, our own environment. So, yes, you are first Western engagement. I don't know if that if you're allowed to say that, but
Oh, I thought you were going to say KOL, and I was going to kick you off the stage. So thank you.
no,
Engagement is
no.
good.
But yeah, so first, I would love for everyone to obviously try out our GameFi iteration of this 2-3 phase vision that we have. Download, snap it, try it out, take pictures. Um, I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be frustrating at first. Even though I'm part of the project, I don't actually own really high quality camera NFTs. I know it sounds almost fake. You'd imagine that someone who's involved in the project would, have access to pretty nice cameras, but
Oh yeah, you were
we
supposed to
don't.
send me one, by the way.
Oh yeah, I am supposed to send you one.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
get we'll
Carry on.
get to that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but it is fun, it's kind of addicting. You just start taking pictures. And then I think because today the topic's been about RWA. I think once you start trying it, once you start playing it, you'll kind of start, connecting the dots between what I was talking about of all the future potential that this holds. You know, what can pictures, locations, timestamps, what can these data, unaltered data, how can it be useful? Maybe people will start getting ideas, and I would love to hear them as well. We would love to implement them. So, please reach out to us. You can, DM me, tag me, whatever. You can just, DM our official account that's also online here.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
from an enterprise
Mhm.
perspective, Scott, there might be you guys should probably connect. There's probably some integrations of like campaigns that some of your clients or friends could utilize this tech. Just thinking out loud. Sorry, Josky. Annie, you can let us know. First of all, I think it's important to let people know that you can play for free without buying an NFT, if I'm not mistaken, and start earning
Yes.
points.
Yes, that is a very good point. It is frustrating again. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why I guess I'm not a good marketer after all. I keep saying it's frustrating, but in a good way, in a fun, engaging way. So, yes, it is free to play. You don't need your hands-on camera NFTs. So just try it out, test it out, and stay posted. Follow us on our socials. We're going to be talking a lot more about RWAs, about DPEN. So yeah, I would love for everyone to just see where this journey takes us. And again, inputs are always appreciated. We're always willing to learn.
I love that. And by the way, Scott, I'll probably see you at 11. I just looked at my calendar and I see I'm scheduled for an RWA space with Wolf at 11 o'clock this morning. So it's going to be a day of RWAs, which probably means I'll yell less at the next crowd of people, which is always good. Um, but yeah, I'm super excited to see the ecosystem. Um, I'm super excited to see different tools that are being spun up and how they kind of interweave. I think Scott, you'll agree. At the end of the day, all of these ecosystems are going to most likely lay on top of each other to create the entire kind of like decentralized mesh network or web, for lack of a better word, of unlocking inefficiency, unlocking liquidity, uh, enhancing the value of time in terms of how it connects with what we do with our daily life and products and interactions. Andrew, I'd love your thoughts on RWAs and kind of what you're seeing. Obviously, we have our friend Alan, who's a rep for tokenized uranium. I can't tell you how many calls I've been in for, like,
Alan,
yes.
where is he on right now? I was going to say, come show me uranium.
No, he's not on. I didn't. He's probably gonna be pissed that I didn't invite him to the space. I'm not very good at that. But
Yeah,
what's your thoughts, my dude?
I've always liked RWAs. I think Scott and I bonded over RWAs and D-pins initially, but it's such an obvious one. Like if I look at just like my investment portfolio pre-crypto, like I like to be diversified, right? I have invested in commodities. A good friend of mine is one of the top commodities traders in the world, and candidly one of the most successful people I've ever met. And so I like it. I like the ability to gain exposure to precious metals. I like the ability to get exposure to carbon credits. I like the ability to get exposure to the value of my personal data. I just, to me, like we used to call this back in the day, Internet of Things. And I mean, you see, again, coming from places like Amazon, a lot of smart technology is integrating all these things. But for the most part, all this technology is basically serving the master, right? It's creating, valuable data sets for them that they can either leverage themselves or sell via data brokers, or you're gaining kind of equity for them in whatever their, business or asset is. So for me, I like it as a diversification play. And the other thing I think I've said in previous spaces is I always think, I've built and scaled numerous startups that have either sold or, gone public. And, I look at those and a lot of it has to do, again, with that mass adoption bell curve. And so I still have to believe, if you're a normie, coming in through a centralized exchange, you're probably initially looking at Bitcoin or Ethereum. Maybe then you're getting into the, the top 50, top 100. And then usually what happens is you go deeper and you get interested in various sectors and verticals and you start to double down. But I think RWAs are so much more accessible for the everyday person because the whole crypto's a scam. Like, I don't agree. Yes, there's a lot of scammers and bad actors in the industry, but like, there's also a lot of very legitimate, incredible builders coming from incredible backgrounds. And so, again, if you're a normie coming in here, and you've already moved past the notion of buying into an ETF versus buying your own Bitcoin, I think about the kind of the ripple effect. And, I'm a neighbor that's maybe a little bit more of a normie, and I bought into an RWA because now I have access to gold, or now I have access to land, or now I have access to, data. And that's a very easy thing to explain to another normie and get them excited about, right? So I think RWAs, same thing. I look at the gaming sector, I look at the social fi sector. I think these are the types of things that can more easily drive mass adoption of crypto. So I like RWAs for a whole number of reasons. Yeah.
I agree.
Andrew,
And
oh
oh,
my
go ahead,
bad.
Scott. No, go ahead.
Oh no, I just me, I talk about this with Andrew and you a lot, Fidge. It's just like at peak, right? I could take like Silencio, Nadix, any of these projects, and I don't have to explain. I don't even have to say wallet. I don't have to say swap. I don't have to. I go, yo, mom, your iPhone. Go to the iPhone. Go to the fucking app store. Download Silencio, and if you hit this button, mom, and you measure noise pollution from the mic of your phone, you get rewarded with cash. Then once she understands that, now I can cross that bridge. Now my mom's like, okay, I got all these tokens. Now what? Now I don't. It's not me explaining that first and confusing. Hey, mom, you ever heard of wormhole and all this other, like, you know what I mean? Like, she'd be lost. She'd be like, what the hell? Same thing with my wife. She's watched me literally be in Web3, pudgies, all this other stuff, not care about any of it. But as soon as she saw Nadix, where you don't have to have a device, it's literally your phone. It's just the easiest onboarding, right? Just like what Snap is trying to do. It's literally pictures, right? Like, and no diss to the device stuff, because I love the IoT stuff, but the onboarding, if something's literally on your phone, and Phygital, you said this 2 years ago, like when we messed around, if Apple would just airdrop everyone, they have the power to do that, right? Like, if something like is already in everybody's hand and the data is clean, and being bought like from the data brokers Andrew was talking about, then it doesn't really matter, because some of these devices are really just like really very well wrapped $8 sensors. Like, I'm not saying any names, but Like if the thing if it's in your iPhone, it's so easy to explain. You don't even have to bring a blockchain.
Couldn't agree more. Andrew, go
Yeah,
ahead, please.
yeah, Scott. Like two things I would say. Like I was laughing with the install stuff because I go back to like when I used to work with Intel and HP, and we would basically talk about, all right, what are we preloading on all the new devices, to guarantee mass adoption quickly. And the one that I didn't have a hand in this one, but the one that backfired that I always laugh about was when Apple preloaded all the phones with the U2 album. And then everyone was like, I don't want it. I don't like U2. I actually do like U2. But anyways, what I wanted to actually say closer to what you were talking about is I think like the devil's advocate to all this stuff that I always hear, has to do with like barrier to entry and friction, right? Because it's like, oh, I got to set up a hard wallet and blah, blah, blah. But I'll tell you point blank, and I'm sure you guys all know this, it's not new news. I mean, so many projects that I talk to, advise, etc. I mean, they've been working on this throughout the entire bear. And so what you're going to see, I don't know when, but I think soon, is you're going to see more of these websites where you sign in with an email address and a password, and then it's auto generating a back end wallet for you, and it's effectively removed that entire step, right? And so you have to, when you're looking at some of this stuff, you really have to think about it more from like a 5-year 10-year horizon standpoint versus today, because all of these barrier points and friction points will get removed. It's just a matter of time. So yeah.
So funny. Try and follow me here, and I don't mean that insultingly. It's just I'm not very good at explaining this. This morning, 6 a.m., I was on a call with Fabian, the founder of Luxo. Super dope dude. For those who don't know, also helped create the ERC20 standard that is every single token, basically, that you interact with. And Luxo, as it exists now, the big selling point is that they have a universal profile, right? That essentially, like you're saying, Andrew, can just get spun up and start, holding assets, collecting data, without you even knowing that you necessarily have a profile or a wallet, right? Depending on how the UI UX, and that's what he's heavily focused on. So I'm bullish as fuck on Luxo. But my conversation this morning for an hour, and it was only supposed to be 15 minutes, was about a project that I've had in my mind, and I'm already ahead of you. So if you want to build it, you'll be behind me. But it's tokenizing and democratizing tipping globally in the service industry, and essentially tokenizing service by incentivizing and empowering server to consumer interactions with a rating system. So servers know how much you scan the bill at the end, you input it. The server has an immutable resume of how much they've earned a restaurant, a immutable resume as to where they worked, how much tip percentage they got on an average basis. The customer gets a profile about how much he's spending, how much he's tipping, and a review system. And now you're basically creating a decentralized web for the largest industry in the world, $7 trillion for the service industry, via tokenomics and really just unlocking liquidity, which is people who love to dine. I'm one. I go to a new restaurant around the world and I have to, drop $100, like Danny DeVito dropping a Magnum condom in It's Always Sunny to prove that I'm a good customer. Whereby it's only because each mom and pop is completely, for lack of a better word, decentralized, and there's no network connecting them. Same for employees, right? There's so many applications to essentially using blockchain and incentive models into the real world to add value and, for lack of a better word, liquidity into ecosystems that I'm super excited about. Did that make sense? Okay, cool. I'm not crazy. So yeah, I might be working with Luxa to build it. Who knows? We'll see. But it's been a dream of mine to empower the hospitality industry and the service industry at large on chain, right? Whether it be Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, cleaning ladies, everything, right? Empowering them by connecting them through liquidity and global incentive models. Been cooking. On that note, Noah, I've had a lot to say. If you have anything else, we could probably wrap it up. If anybody in the audience or on the panel has anything else interesting to ask or say, please do. Annie, before we head out, if you want to give a call to action for Snap It, again, you can start taking pictures and earning tokens or earning points. How do you call it?
Yeah, we call it points. And
Points.
yeah, please follow us on Twitter. Try that app out and let us know or let me know what you think. Thanks,
in any,
Visual.
no problem. Next time we'll do this earlier, but throw up a tweet
that'll be
that
great.
has throw up a tweet that has a call to action into the what do you call that thing, bulletin board, so anybody who's
Got it.
interested can click on it and explore. Thanks for joining, everybody. Had a great conversation. I love this stuff. Noah, if you want to give the requirements.
Yeah, the requirements. Yeah, great combo. Thank you for leading, Fidji. And I think next week we're going to do memes. I'm pretty sure we're going to do memes. So stay tuned for that. And remember that everything you hear on these broadcasts is meant for educational purposes only. Nothing is financial advice. So be safe out there, and we'll see you on the next one soon. Take care.